Hello, Finimizers. Well, welcome to another Finimize Live. My name is Luke, your Finimize analyst. I want to be emceeing tonight and moderating the discussion, and I'm hosting. I'm very excited to have with me today. Acquiring a taste for rare wine investments, our partner WineChain. First, you have some housekeeping to run through. As you're coming in, please fill out the poll. We want to make this as interactive as possible. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us where you're tuning in from, and remember to switch to all attendees so everyone can see your messages. This is a 15-minute discussion followed by a 15-minute audience Q&A. So post your questions in the Q&A box. And if you see a question you like, upvote it so it moves to the top. And this way we can get through the most upvoted and questions that everyone's most interested in. So let's kick this off. Our event partner for today is WineChain. Discover the simplicity of your wine cellar in the cloud, matched with the integrity of the blockchain. WineChain is a global collectors community and marketplace that gives you access to rare bottles and experiences directly from top wineries. Buy and sell wines digitally while the bottles are securely stored in your remote cellar. So today, we're very fortunate over at Finimize to have Nicolas Mendiharat with us. Nicolas is WineChain's co-founder and CEO co-founder, a serial tech entrepreneur who sold his first company at the age of 27. In 2015, Nicolas moved from his home in France to San Francisco, where his passion for wine kickstarted his venture Palate Club, the most advanced taste matching engine that leverages AI to select wines paired to your personal taste buds. In 2022, Nicolas combined his expertise with that of 3 other co-founders to develop WineChain, the premier marketplace where customers can buy, sell, and store the world's top wines using a digital cellar backed by blockchain technology. So first things first, thanks for joining us today. Nicolas, how are you doing?
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for having me, Luke.
Fantastic. I'm great. Thanks for joining us, Nick. And I'm going to dive straight in because we've got lots to get through. So, Nicolas, give us the lowdown on how things work at WineChain. You know, from what one can see, one can buy, sell, store, hold, like investment, as well as drink the glorious liquid.
Yeah, well, very simply put, this is the first marketplace where wineries sell directly to you worldwide their wines. So this is to keep the authenticity. And of course, coming straight from the winery, you know that they'll be perfectly stored and everything else. So simply put, you go on WineChain, you can buy wines from the wineries directly, and you buy them through smart contracts, which can be sold later on. And the reason for that, it makes it then much easier to have liquidity on the market, while it enables the wineries to collect a little bit of royalties only on the profit, like such as 15%. And that process is also very good for the wines because it enables the wines not moving. So the principle is you buy wine through their digital twin, through their digital token, smart contract, if you will, and we store the wines for you. So you then have 3 choices. You can just keep them there. There's a small storage fee annually. Or you can resell them on the marketplace, which is basically a C2C marketplace. And anybody buying secondary there knows that the wine initially came from the winery, which means that it remains authentic, as opposed to if you buy a rare wine from someone, which is 20 years after it's been traded, dozens of times. You're not sure it has been stored perfectly, there are counterfeits, etc. In our case, everything has been only like sourced from the winery and that hasn't moved. Or you can get them shipped if you want to drink them.
That's fantastic. I was just about to ask, and I wanted you to correct me in case I was wrong, but if there was a special occasion and someone wanted to celebrate, instead of storing it as an investment, they wanted to drink it instead. So that's always good to know that there's many options at clients' fingertips. So I guess then that takes me to the next question. What makes rare wine a compelling investment option to tap into?
Yeah, if you look at the past decades, wine, what you consider as fine wine. Fine wine is basically, if you look at price points, is above $60, $70 euros a bottle. They've been a very, very performing asset, right? It's beat the S&P 500 in most cases, and including in the past 10 years. And there are underlying reasons for that, right? So it's often demand, obviously, but why is that so particular with fine wine? If you look at it for supply, building a fine wine, creating it requires a lot of parameters, which are not so easy to combine, right? There is scarcity by nature. It's only in certain soils and certain areas. Usually all the best areas in the world where you can grow great wines are already completely occupied and full. It's not so easy to find other areas which does it well. It's a very long process. Secondly, you need, so this is called basically the terroir, right? So secondly, you need the human touch. You need the artistry of basically the winemaker. I mean, there's a reason why certain wines are like, $1,000 and others are $10. It's because you can't like duplicate it like that. So that there is a finesse, there's a level of perfection which is reached in the best wines. And that requires patience, that requires knowledge, that requires artistry. So it's a mix of these things. Well, and then you need luck as well, because with climate change right now, it's actually production level of most fine wines have declined. Most of the top regions, such as Burgundy, that it's really hard with the weather conditions. So if you look at that, it's really hard to increase production. And you definitely can't increase it as fast as demand, because even if you, let's say you find the perfect place and you plant the vines, it takes, 10, 12 years or even 20 years to get actually good grapes, right? Even if everything is perfect. So in that time frame, usually the market has increased again 30%, right? And so demand in the world has increased a lot because a lot of countries which used to not drink wines finally appreciate wines. Of course, a lot of them are in Asia, but that's one factor. And in the older wine drinking countries, let's say Europe and the US, which are markets which are more mature, the trend is to drink less but better. So including the younger generation and millennials, actually the average basket of people in their 30s is higher than people in their 60s, which is quite one of the only products where it's like that. It's quite surprising, right? But that's rough market data. So what that means is that people want to drink less alcohol, and they want to consume the best. And actually, when you consume the best wines, they're often also made with less or no pesticides and much healthier as a product as it is. Again, I mean, I'm not recommending alcohol consumption. This is not financial advice, by the way, as you always have to say. But there is a big difference in quality and investment interest, anything when you go into top wines. There is a rarity, scarcity effect there. And the demand in the world is growing. So then you can ask yourself, well, will these parameters change in the future, or is it the same, right? So, I mean, I'm not here to guess everything, but it seems like demand is continuously growing in countries which cannot or don't produce yet top wines, such as India, for instance, a big market to become. Indonesia, I mean, mostly of Asia, right, and including South America, etc. And again, I mean, we don't see how the overall quality of wines in the world increases thanks to knowledge, thanks to science and everything else. But getting to the top 1%, we're talking about the top 1% here, right? So on production is really hard. We don't see, I mean, there is no available data or theory which could tell you, oh, the top wine production could double like that, or could like increase significantly. So you see like the same parameters are there. I mean, demand is growing and offer and supply cannot cope with it. So guess what happens then to the pricing of markets?
Yeah, that's very favorable supply demand dynamics you talk about there. So I guess how, when you're structuring a portfolio, traditionally you've got your stocks, your real estate, your bonds. Where does wine fit? And I know everybody's got different circumstances, but how large of your portfolio should an investment in wine form, for example?
Well, I know some wine passionate people who, allocate maybe 30% or 50% just because they know what they're doing. So traditionally, if you would invest in wine, if you don't know what you're doing, you're not necessarily going to make a good investment. By the way, in most cases, if you look at long term, you're probably not making a bad investment. It's almost hard to make a bad investment, like or losing money in wine if you look at a 10-year time frame and you just invest in wines which are as simple as, you know, age with higher ageability, for instance. But you will not be performing just by going randomly, like if you would pick up stocks randomly or things like that. I mean, there's a few indexes, you know, on the top, Bordeaux, Stone Burgundy, whatever. If you don't know what you're doing, it's basically, I wouldn't allocate much, right? I would just allocate 5% maybe for fun. And, you know, worst case, you're gonna you have very good wine to drink, you know, when you're older. So why not? But if you do it like really professionally, I would say, I mean, professionally, meaning like you really want to take the time. You could read a lot about you know, the market dynamics, and you know, and then speculate a little bit. You know, wine is not a short-term speculation asset. You don't want to invest there and say, oh, I'm going to make a 30% profit and go out in 6 months or in 2 months. That is not, I mean, you should not consider wine like that. And wineries, by the way, will not like to sell you wine if you're that type of investor. Wine is really a long-term thing. So how much you allocate, it's really then up to you. At WineChain, we make it much easier. Right, you can do it yourself on the platform, where we give a lot of the information. Well, first of all, you buy straight from the wineries, which is very interesting. And the first time you can do this at scale like that. And you can basically check all the different details we're giving, like, for instance, ageability, variability. You can filter in many different ways, or you can use our concierge service, which then does it for you. You basically give parameters. You say, you know, I want to buy that amount of wine every year or every month, and just do it for me. And so, you know, we'll take care of you. It has a cost which we waive after if you invest a lot. So anyway, so it's really up to you. But again, you know, I think it's in general, my personal approach, for instance, is that it's a very low risk investment on the long term, which can actually pay out even better than the stocks or whatever. And it's fun. I like to collect wine, right? So I like to see why, because every wine, you know, ages differently, and you know, sometimes a producer becomes a superstar. So it was $50 a bottle now, and then suddenly it's 350 because, you know, the market has understood that this producer creates magic. This is what I love about wine investment, is that there's this artistry part and this thing you cannot necessarily guess. If you just like numbers, and you know, your finance guy who's just about, you know, profits, etc., you should not invest too much in wine. I think it's a very quality investment. You should consider as it is, and don't forget you're investing in a physical asset, which is wine, which will evolve in time. The last thing I want to say here is that in most cases, wines which age well, which are designed to age well, and because it is like that, get better in time. So your asset is not only increasing because of scarcity or market dynamics, it's actually increasing because it gets better to taste. So that's also a little bit specific to wine.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting how you say, like, you know, a wine can become a superstar. It kind of makes me think of it sort of like a call option, you know, like a wine is going to appreciate over time, but if it hits the jackpot, then, you know, it can become a superstar, and it kind of like reacts in traditional financial structures like a call option, sort of. It's like you've got like a lottery ticket in a way. I guess before, you know, platforms like yourself, WineChain, came into the picture, liquidity was an issue for the average person on the street. I mean, you can always go to auction houses and buy and sell, but the average person like myself, who's probably not got access to things like that. So I think that's actually made wine more of a mainstream investment now. Platforms like yourself bringing that liquidity in, where you can buy and sell it at the click of a button, which is fantastic. And just before we move into the Q&A, Nicolas, I guess 2 quick questions I'd want to just ask is, you know, how does wine respond in market downturns? You know, does it have this defensive property and act as a sort of shock absorber if other traditional assets in your portfolio are actually declining?
Yeah, so if you look at the past, right, like typically the 2009 financial crisis and how fine wines have behaved at that time, it hardly went down. I mean, the market dropped maybe 10, 15% during 6 months and then recovered very quickly. So, I mean, of course, it's just one event, but it was an important event, the 2009 crisis. So you see, it's a very resilient asset towards downturns. Right now, we are actually in a downturn. I mean, it went up and up and up and up. But like any market goes up, at a certain point, you need to. So it may be a good time in the next 2 years because you have a kind of a steadier market. Some wines which have increased so much finally got a little drop, etc. So it's maybe good time. So you're not a complete bulletproof just because it's wine. Huh? I never said that. So you can totally lose money, particularly if it's on a short distance. But if you look at major crises and downturns, it's a very resilient asset. Like in general, all these like type of assets, right? So. But to your question, what is important is, I mean, the liquidity on the market. What makes actually the price drop when you need to sell wine is the ancient world, how it was today. Until today, basically, if you collect wine, in most cases, you have shipped the wine to your home. And just by doing that, you lost value. Because 5 years or 10 years later, when you want to sell it, or when you have to sell it, or let's say it's an inheritance, you have many factors which make it actually lose value. The first one is that you're going probably to sell locally, right? Even if it's like the US, let's say, okay, you're selling to a US market. I mean, you need to move the wine. You're not going to have suddenly the Chinese market or the whatever French market, at your door to buy wines. So you're losing the opportunity of other markets, which would buy much more. Secondly, any type of merchant or intermediary you're going to sell it through or going to organize your sale is going to take 25-30% minimum of the global value just because that's their business to do so. I mean, it's like that. And moreover, because it has been stored in maybe perfect conditions, but the buyer doesn't know. Because of the risk of counterfeits, there's been numerous scandals, right? And because of a wine which is 20 years old and you're buying like $500 a bottle and you're going to be the end consumer, you're paying a high price for that. I mean, if you can make sure that has been stored in perfect conditions coming from the winery, etc., and you are not sure about it because it's like somebody selling it, the wine might have traveled in bad conditions, whatever. The value difference can go up to 50% in certain cases, right? So this is why we came up with WineChain. We solve all that in one. You just you have your cellar in the cloud. It's perfectly identified. It's coming only from the winery, and therefore, if you want to sell part of it, any buyer knows that the wine is perfect, and you have the world market as your oyster. So that's, I think, a very important point about managing downturn or losing basically value, or when you are ready to sell, or no matter what the market conditions are in reality.
And then, Nicolas, just before we go into the Q&A, because the questions have been flying in here fast and furiously, there's clearly a lot of interest. For people that aren't necessarily wine connoisseurs, is there support on WineChain, like guidance for, what sort of wines to buy for newbies and beginners? Is there a lot of support within the WineChain ecosystem?
So with WineChain, you have do-it-yourself, right, on the platform, and then you have the concierge service, and then you have the community, okay? So do-it-yourself, we indicate, for instance, we have tags on wines, which are like hidden gems, icons, or rising stars. So, each of them means something, and we take that very seriously. So, like, Antoine Petrus was the best French sommelier, was head of our wineries, and the wine team at WineChain is assessing. I mean, despite even some wineries, are like dying to become part of those classifications, is something which is not in the market. So far, you just have wine critic scores. Okay, well, they are what they are. But this is like a little bit more guidance, right? It's to tell you, okay, we consider this as a rising star, that, it's definitely like this winemaker does like such good stuff. Or hidden gem, for instance, super interesting as well. It means that we consider it's great value, and this is a region not well known, but like they make amazing wine there. It's like some in Corsica are like that. Some rising stars in Champagne. I mean, the wine world is moving a lot. It doesn't mean like the previous guys will not be there. They will still be there, but there are some new players as well. So this is do it yourself. You have a lot of indicators from us to guide you, and it's pretty fun. I mean, you just you go and you assess which wine. I mean, in general wine education, then you might prefer red or white or whatever. You can always have a lot of information about the winery on our website and also elsewhere on the internet, of course. When you absolutely don't want to spend time with that, then the concierge service will will ask you questions such as your type of investment, will you think you're going to drink part of that? What is your distance? How long are you going to make the investment? How much are you going to invest per year, etc. And so depending on those answers, they can build a portfolio for you pretty easily and quickly. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, right? You can start with, you buy like 3 or 4 cases, 500 each. It's not like a huge, gigantic investment, and you see, how it goes, and then you go on and you decide if you want to allocate more, or just stay like that. And then on the community itself, we haven't developed those tools yet, but we absolutely intend to do, so that people can, first of all, like leaderboard of sellers. So you're going to see sellers of top sommeliers and or top users of the platform, right? Top buyers, top collections, and so you could a little bit copycat those collections because you follow someone you trust with their wine choices, and then you just copycat what they do. Why not? It's not necessarily a bad idea. And yeah, top sommeliers which are really making their choices. Plus, if we have them on the platform like that, we will want them to make their absolute independent choice. I mean, we are not there. We don't hold inventory as WineChain, right? We are just enabling the market with fluidity and the wineries to sell direct, which means we will not like push this particular wine because we make more margin, or like the previous world is doing. We want to keep like a full transparency basically about what is happening. We just give our view to about the hidden gems thing, for instance, because we think that this wine deserves some particular attention. So yeah, this is how it works. I mean, you have many options. We are making it easier. The main problem today of wine investment is that it's really hard to do, and if you don't have the right connections, the right knowledge, etc., you're just going into something which is a little bit random and honestly almost scary. So when you go on WineChain, that should disappear. You should not be scared anymore, because you just make it really simple and easy and accessible for you. So that's the point.
Fantastic. All right, well, let's dive straight into these questions in the Q&A, and I'm going to start with the ones that have the most upvotes. So James asks, how easy is it for a user to have some of their collection shipped? How does pricing for shipping then get calculated? Is this in-house for you?
Yeah, so we work with many shipping partners. Shipping is very complex. I'm not going to dive into all the details because there's different compliance per country, etc. But the principle you have to understand is that we store in bonded, so there's no sales tax paid yet because we don't know where the wine is going to be shipped yet, right? So you have the ownership of the bottles, right? It's not like we don't hold the bottles. We organize the service so that the storage is yours. By the way, even if it would disappear, you have the ownership of the bottle, right? You have the title and it's attached to your wallet. So, there's like basically that's also a very big difference towards if you would invest through, different other means and funds and other intermediaries which hold the wine. So shipping is depending on the country, the quantity, the length. There's so many parameters. So it's you basically ship to yourself. So there's you can check it once you do a simulation online. There is all the prices, but globally you have to count about around $8 to $20-25 in the most expensive cases per bottle to get shipped, depending on different parts of the world. So this is why, I mean, it's totally okay for fine wine. You still make a better deal if you buy this way and then get shipped, basically, and particularly if you group ship. But it really depends where you live. So typically, if you buy one bottle and you ship that bottle to the end of the earth, yeah, then might not be a good deal to ship, right? But if you build your collection, let's say the typical scenario is, okay, so you build your collection of wine, let's say you have now 250 bottles, right? So after a few years, etc., and the ageability is reached, and so now you decide to ship 50 bottles to whatever, London, New York, where you are, because you want to drink them, and the 200 you keep them or you sell them, then it's worth it, and then you're probably going to have like a cost of $500 or a little bit more. I mean, it depends to ship those 50 bottles, and you're going to pay sales tax depending where you live. So if you live in a country where there's no or little sales tax of alcohol, good for you. But we take care of everything here with our different partners. We have also as investors and backers the second largest logistic group worldwide. So we're working with the bigger players here. So.
Fantastic. All right, great. And then Jordan asked quite an interesting question. How do you keep track of the price? Is there a way to check on the profit or loss whenever you like? So in my opinion, he's kind of intimating at here like a mark to market where you can log in, check if your investment's either in the red or the green.
Yeah, we will help a little bit more with that. But at this point, of course, you see in your wallet your purchase price and everything else, of course, related to the history of that particular smart contract. And the marketplace is open. You could go there now and just do a filtered search. There's many ways to filter. You could just go, for Burgundy or for this particular bottle you have, and you can see which prices are listed on the market. So that's quite easy. I mean, it will not take you a lot of time. Once we have this company, we are like 18 months old, so we just launched. So there's not enough data to do big charts or so yet, but we intend to do that, of course. So once you have let's say all these assets, then you will see the price evolution, obviously in the past months, 6 months, or you're gonna get alerts as well. I mean, this is all the logic we are behind, and we're going to build to help you assess better, obviously. But you already have a lot of information out there.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great. I think charting would be fantastic. And as you say, it's soon to come. So Anders would like to know, what is sort of the fundamentals of wine investing? Should I be looking for wines from a certain region or time? What are some of the key things, Nicolas?
As an investor, as well as a taster, I would, the fundamental thing is diversity. I mean, this is like a classical, of course. It's almost boring because everybody will always tell you should be, you should have diversity investments. So if you don't know anything about wine, I would do a mix of the classical big, regions such as Bordeaux and Burgundy, of course. And I would add a twist of all the upcoming regions, which are really dynamic right now. So a bit of New World, Italians, of course. Champagne is also something which is really growing a lot now with small producers. And I would do a mix between big powerhouses, right, which have large production. So they are largely distributed on the market. Everybody knows them. And smaller, hidden gems, like I said, or newcomers. So I would definitely mix and do that diversity, and that, I mean, it's almost, you can't go wrong if you do go like this, right? If you know about your taste, then I would definitely go with, if you intend to drink part of it, I would definitely go at least 50% buying wines according to your taste. This is what I do, because you don't know, right? In 10 years, I might actually want to drink a lot of them, and it's more fun to collect. And you know a little bit more what you're doing when you buy wines from your taste, because you usually follow them. You see at the restaurant, you check, oh yeah, I like this one. Oh, that's true. I should remind next time. I'll check on WineChain if it's there. So Yeah, so but diversity in any case. So just so you know, in matter of production today, in value, France is 62% of the fine wine production. It's a little bit like luxury goods, and I'm not saying oh, so proud of being French myself, but it is the way it is. It might evolve, but now, I mean, that means that there's, including in France, there's new regions, right? There's new, like Corsica, for instance, we believe it's going to be quite amazing wines there. And, you know, in Languedoc, they're doing new stuff. I mean, top wines can come now from everywhere, as long as you have, you know, the top artist, the top winemaker doing like his magic on a soil, on a terroir, which deserves it. So you can go a little bit further. I would always do a little bit of pick up for fun as well.
Corsica is where Napoleon Bonaparte was born. Isn't that correct,
Yeah.
Nicolas, if I'm not mistaken?
Corsica has a long history with France, for sure.
And I hope South Africa will form part of some of those new world wines that might be on your platform, because we're not just rugby world champions, we also do produce very good wine, and maybe I'm a bit biased.
Absolutely. South African wines deserve to be on the platform as well, and we intend to have the best ones on the platform for sure.
Fantastic. Well, Jean-Paul Akada asks, are you planning to integrate with DeFi or other Web3 native ecosystems in the future?
Yeah, we announced a partnership with Rarible. I mean, it's not specifically DeFi, but it's very Web3. It's going to go live next month. We are definitely full Web3 mode. It's a logic of Web3, right? Where the winemakers are creators and collecting a little bit royalties finally on the growing value of their asset. So in DeFi in general, I mean, all the ecosystem, whether it's wallets, cryptocurrencies, etc., we want to make it very easy. I mean, these are smart contracts, right? So you can already buy them with USDC, and hopefully soon we integrate more. I mean, just more easiness for everything. Yeah, we absolutely believers in DeFi for one simple reason: is wine is a very international product, right? Fine wine like that, so it like travels everywhere. So by the way, by doing what we do, there's less carbon footprint as well, right? Because the wines are not traveling all the time. So they will only theoretically travel once at the end when you burn your NFT. But so is money in a certain sense. So if you look at the final price, let's say how the market is today, right? Wine ages 10 years has been traded 10 times, let's say, okay? Once a year, kind of maybe an average between merchants, between Hong Kong and Japan and whatever. Despite the wine moving, the wine, the currency exchange, and everything what the centralized finance today takes, right? Whether it's the moving money, the currency rates, and the banking system in general, in the final price can represent a really high portion, particularly if it's consumer based, because at a certain point, consumer enter, of course, the arena of buying and selling. So obviously, the promise of DeFi here is that the cost is going to go close to zero. And we're looking at multiple transactions on the same asset in multiple countries, multiple currencies, right? So, of course, DeFi is an amazing tool there for that, as well as, of course, the logic of having that asset into your wallet as a real physical asset and not just digital NFT or whatever, which you don't know where it's going, right? So yeah, we are. This is why we built it this way as well. We believe that the world will change in matter of financial flows, and since wine is, you know, there's a high cost of trading like that. This is one of the ways to solve it for sure.
Nicolas, we've actually unfortunately reached the end of our time today, but just very quickly before you go, do you think we'll ever see a wine ETF come into the markets? I'm not sure, maybe there is one at the moment, but last time I checked there wasn't, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Maybe it's my favorite question overall. I think that's the future. So you have wine ETFs. I mean, you have funds, you have platforms such as, you know, LiveX, etc., where you can basically invest in wine as index, again, through intermediaries and through it's not so easy to do. I believe, you know, before anything else, you need like WineChain to have a lot of customers. Most of the wineries are already attracted more than 100 of the 500 top wineries in the world, by the way. So, I mean, very proud of that in just 1 year. And so that means that wineries believe into that direct channel sale. And once you have that, that means that you have, like you said before, market charts, and you can obviously build portfolios. And the next step would be, why not building ETFs? There is a problem for that, though, is regulations, obviously, right? So it's not only financial regulation, which is obvious to create ETFs. I'm not too worried about crypto regulations according to wine, because it's a physical asset. So considering this as like some digital token doesn't make too much sense. But it is a collectible, and it is alcohol collectible, right? So you have alcohol compliance a little bit all across the board, particularly in the US. So it's not so easy. But in theory, let's say, okay, we build ETFs on, you know, a mix of portfolios, or, you know, you duplicate some sort of, you know, mix in the world, and you consider that's going to go up and down because it's like a currency, like a commodity, if you will. You know, a bit like gold, but gold you can drink, so it's a little bit better. So again, it's more fun. So why not? I think it makes a ton of sense. It just needs to be well done, so that there's no scams, no, you know exactly what you're buying. We do everything. You won't find anything which is not backed by physical assets, right, on the platform. It's only like you're buying wine, not like this is very important. And so I'm a little bit, what I would not recommend is derivatives and all sorts of speculative activities where there's no physical product behind it. I mean, I'm personally not interested in that. I don't think it's our mission at WineChain to do that type of stuff. But enabling the fluidity of the market, giving access to invest, and through ETFs, why not? I think it makes sense for the future, yes.
Fantastic. Well, Nicolas, thanks so much. I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. There were a lot of questions. I wish I could get through all of them, but thank you so much for joining us. I've learned a lot. I'm sure the people who have joined us too have learned a ton and really enjoyed it. And I hope this has been enlightening and informative for everyone. And thanks once again for joining us, Nicolas.
Thank you so much for having me. And don't hesitate to reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. You can find me easily.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Nicolas. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.